Дорогие друзья, мы продолжаем серию встреч с вами и будем сегодня говорить об одном из самых, наверное, известных и уже проверенных временем продуктов, но тоже небольшие обновления его коснулись. Как раз
And
мы
today we will
обсудим
talk about one of the
сегодня
most
Siberian
famous and
Wellness
already time-tested products.
в контексте
It has
вообще
been
подхода
affected by
к
minor
свободным радикалам и
updates.
антиоксиданты, вообще для чего это все нужно, и обсудим, безусловно, основные преимущества этого замечательного продукта. Меня зовут Дарья Киншт, я
We will
медицинский
discuss the
консультант
antioxidant
Integrative
complex
Medicine
formula for
Physician,
N.V.M.N in the
и
context of what
я
free
очень
radicals
рада
are,
встрече с вами. Итак,
what antioxidants are for. We will also discuss the main benefits of this wonderful product. My name is Darya Kinsht. I am a medical expert at Siberian Wellness, candidate of medical sciences. Before talking about free radicals, it is necessary to remember that the cause of their appearance is oxygen. On the one hand, oxygen is life, because no living creature on Earth can do without it. On the other hand, it is one of the most powerful oxidizing agents. It is capable of destroying and even burning. Therefore, speaking of oxygen, it is worth remembering both its beneficial and destructive properties. Once in the body, 99% of oxygen in the process of metabolism is restored to ordinary water. And this is absolutely normal. This happens almost always. But 1% of oxygen is normally converted into reactive oxygen species, that is, free radicals. These are synonyms. What is the peculiarity of free radicals? We will talk a little later. But the common property of these substances is the presence of an unpaired electron in their outer shell. Of course, completely different reactive oxygen species with different compounds are formed. It's not just oxygen. It combines with various substances. Accordingly, different free radicals have completely different lifespans. It can be calculated from nanoseconds to fractions of a second. In fact, this is a lot. Some free radicals even live for a few seconds. The range may vary. The duration of action and properties also differ. Hence various negative consequences. This slide schematically depicts what I have already said. The free radical is circled. We see that one of the electrons has no pair. This is a fundamentally important point. Drawing an analogy with ordinary life, without a partner, we are unstable. Free radicals are also unstable. Therefore, they try to gain stability as quickly as possible and find a pair for the free electron. They try to borrow or snatch another electron from some other substance. And at that point, they make other substances free radicals, setting off a chain reaction. In fact, such a reaction in the body occurs every second, a very voluminous process. On average, it is estimated that a healthy body produces about 200,000 free radicals per second. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we usually talk about free radicals in the context of their negative effects. However, do not forget that free radicals are designed by nature for a reason. They have a lot of positive properties. Without the formation of free radicals, in principle, we cannot have the processes of energy formation. Because oxygen, when it enters the body, is necessary for the formation of energy. And the process of its oxidation is associated with the formation of free radicals. Otherwise, not a single cell in our body will receive the energy that is necessary for life. With the help of free radicals, cells of the immune system destroy pathogenic microorganisms, neutralize viruses and bacteria. Any detoxification occurs with the help of free radicals. For example, such an important process for our body is liver detoxification. There are free radicals that regulate vascular tone. I think you've heard of nitric oxide. Chemically, it is a free radical because there is an unpaired electron in the shell. But this is one of the main regulatory factors that contribute to the expansion of blood vessels. With a deficiency of nitric oxide, an increase in vascular tone with an increase in blood pressure is possible. And then we get all the adverse ensuing consequences. Finally, free radicals are needed for the synthesis of some biologically active substances and hormones. Now you know what global life-supporting processes free radicals participate in. They are necessary for our body. I beg you to remember this. And the disadvantages of free radicals begin to appear when they are formed in excess of the necessary norm. Free radicals can damage cells, lead to changes in their properties, and even death. Free radicals can damage a cell's genetic information and lead to gene mutations. Against this background, the properties of cells change. The pathogenesis of oncological processes is based on this. Free radicals are considered one of the main basic mechanisms of any disease in general.
На самом деле, когда мы говорим об свободных радикалах не как о веществах, да, а об избыточном их образовании, то есть о окислительном стрессе, да, то есть когда выходит за рамки, так скажем, уже количество...
They also affect the aging process, as they cause oxidative stress. That is, when the number of free radicals goes out of the norm, this is a general pathological process. It is worth remembering that it is present in any health changes and imbalances in the body. I think in the context of oxidative stress, you've also heard about lipid peroxidation. These are synonyms. It is important to understand that this process is accompanied by damage to cell membranes. A cell is always surrounded by a membrane that ensures its structural integrity and a host of other functions. On the membrane, there are channels for the entry of nutrients into the interior and the removal of metabolic products. There are also receptors for intercellular interaction, reaction to signals of the nervous system. There are also hormonal receptors and a lot of small regulatory mechanisms for life. The main structural component of cell membranes, namely 60 to 80%, are phospholipids. These are fat-soluble substances. They are most susceptible to damaging effects. They are the easiest to donate free electrons from their outer shell to free radicals. Phospholipids practically do not resist this process. They lose their balance. Accordingly, their properties change, which leads to a violation of the function of membranes. And if the functions of cell membranes and their integrity are disturbed, then the cell performs its functions worse. And in the future, the cell, in principle, can die. This slide schematically shows how a healthy cell is attacked by free radicals. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that intracellular organelles also have their own membranes. Therefore, the formation of free radicals inside cells is also a fairly serious process. Next, we will talk about the components in the composition of the antioxidant complex formula for N.V.M.N. One of the components is aimed at protecting the membranes of mitochondria, the main energy stations of cells. It is in the mitochondria that energy is formed. Accordingly, there are the most active processes. Therefore, mitochondrial membranes, like all organelles, are also susceptible to the action of free radicals. Oxidative stress has been considered a general pathological process since the 50s of the 20th century. At the same time, a free radical theory of structure was built, which has not lost its relevance to this day. Today, there is new evidence of the effect of free radicals on the activation of the aging process. The theory was proposed by Denham Hartman of the University of Nebraska Medical Center. He conducted a lot of research and confirmed that the effect of free radicals is significant. We have already talked about what free radicals can do at the level of cells and cellular organelles. In fact, Hartman's theory implies the process of wear and tear of the body due to free radicals. We talked about the dysfunction of one cell, but tissues and organs consist of many cells. As a result of the dysfunction of many cells, all processes of the body's vital functions are disrupted. The launch of such disorders can be caused by an excessive concentration of free radicals. This is the cause of many diseases that are not necessarily related to age-related changes. It has now been proven that free radicals affect the development of diabetes mellitus and obesity. Free radicals also cause pathologies of the cardiovascular system. With an excess of free radicals, cancer control by the body decreases. Why does this happen? Excess is formed in any chronic and acute inflammatory diseases and intoxications. At this point, in addition to the aging of the body, there is an increase in the load on the immune system, because it is obliged to respond to all these changes and try to regain control. It is necessary to destroy cells with altered properties, toxins, and pathogenic microorganisms in time. But the immune system simply does not have enough strength, capabilities, and time to keep track of absolutely everything. Free radicals also take part in age-related degenerative changes in the nervous system. Another serious problem is a decrease in visual function. Free radicals take an active part in the conversion of visual signals into electrical signals. Only an electrical signal is recognized by the visual cortex of the brain. With excessive load and the influence of the blue spectrum on the organs of vision, adults and children are at risk. We run the risk of impairing our eyesight, and this is also based on free radical processes. The formation of free radicals can also increase under the influence of external factors. These factors include drugs, industrial pollution, and toxins. And also such factors include the sun's rays and radiation, bacteria, and viruses. The conditions in which we live are not always favorable and can activate the formation of radicals. The good news is that nature has protection against free radicals in our body. Accordingly, we have enzyme systems for inactivating free radicals in our body. You may have heard of superoxide dismutase, catalase, transferase, glutathione peroxidase. It is important to note that they work well if the body receives enough coenzymes. That is, you need activators of these enzymes. Active centers. These are elements and vitamins such as zinc, manganese, copper, sulfur, and others. And there are non-enzymatic antioxidant substances, vitamin A, E, C, glutathione, coenzyme Q10, selenium, taurine. Phytonutrients, lipoic acid, melatonin, L-carnitine, methylsulfonylmethane, lactoferrin. Many of them are in our assortment. They also have antioxidant properties. And now we move on to the components in the composition of the antioxidant complex formula for N.V.M.N. Vitamin A. One of the most well-known antioxidants. It is a fat-soluble vitamin. It is absolutely necessary to maintain visual acuity. Provides visual function. Without vitamin A, we cannot fully see. It also regulates cell division and differentiation. Vitamin A contributes to the repair of epithelial tissue and skin, our natural barriers. Vitamin A deficiency primarily affects the skin. Chronic deficiency causes visual impairment, accelerates aging, and increases the risk of cancer. One capsule of the updated product formula for N.V.M.N contains 1,200 micrograms of vitamin A. This is a very good dosage. Later, I will show the percentage of an adequate level of consumption. And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that, on the one hand, vitamin A is fat-soluble. Like any fat-soluble vitamin, it can accumulate, so overdoses are undesirable. However, according to statistics, millions of preschool children and pregnant women are deficient in the vitamin. The second component is vitamin E, universal protector of cell membranes from oxidative stress. Very importantly, vitamin E is necessary in order to cleanse the lipids of the blood plasma. Perhaps someone is more familiar with the terms bad and good cholesterol. In fact, it protects against oxidation, reducing the risk of bad cholesterol formation. Of course, vitamin E is important for reproductive health in both men and women. It is important that all components enhance the effect of each other and contribute to the maintenance of active properties. In particular, vitamin E is needed to create a depot of vitamin A in the body. Together with vitamin A, C, and zinc, vitamin E reduces the risk of developing age-related macular degeneration. This is a change in the retina that progresses with age and leads to significant loss of vision. Vitamin E, like any antioxidant, also has a cancer-preventive effect. Severe vitamin E deficiency is not common, as it is widely present in food. But relative insufficiency occurs in conditions of increased demand or high consumption. Vitamin C. It seems to be the most common vitamin and is present in many foods. However, according to various studies, vitamin C deficiency reaches 50%, depending on the region. The seasonal factor does not affect these statistics. A shortage even in summer is quite detectable. The fact is that vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, which means it cannot create a depot in the body. Therefore, for any water-soluble vitamin, the regularity of its intake into the body is important. Vitamin C is the strongest antioxidant. It is involved in the synthesis of vital substances. It is necessary for the synthesis of collagen and elastin, which directly affect the health of the skin and bones. It is necessary for the synthesis of serotonin, corticosteroids, these are stress hormones of the adrenal glands. With their help, the main adaptation occurs. This is laid down by nature within the framework of evolution for survival. And although modern stress is psycho-emotional in nature, hormones are still needed for adaptation. In chronic stressful situations, the need for vitamin C increases and deficiency occurs more often. Vitamin C is necessary for the synthesis of oxytocin, catecholamine, and other biologically active substances. Vitamin C is needed in high concentrations in immune cells. They do not fully work when there is a shortage. It is these killer cells that are responsible for the destruction of pathological viruses and bacteria. Vitamin C is also necessary for the synthesis of interferon. Vitamin C has more than just antioxidant properties. Perhaps its other important properties even outweigh the protection against free radicals. Another component of formula for N.V.M.N is the amino acid taurine. The peculiarity of taurine is that it does not participate in the construction of proteins, like other amino acids. Taurine is an amino-like acid that performs its specific functions in the body. It protects cell membranes, including mitochondria, from oxidative stress. It participates in detoxification processes, improves the quality of bile. It participates in the synthesis of bile acids, and, accordingly, in the timely metabolism of cholesterol. Its neutralization, excretion of excess bile into the intestines and subsequently from the body. Bile acids are necessary for the absorption of any fat-soluble substances, including vitamins A and E. Taurine regulates the water electrolyte balance inside cells, maintaining cell and tissue turgor. Taurine is a cardioprotector. It stabilizes the heart rhythm and contractility of the myocardium. Taurine is a neuroprotector. It is necessary to maintain visual acuity as a specific antioxidant. Thus, taurine is included in the product for a reason and not only as an antioxidant. It especially protects those tissues in which the processes of energy formation are very active. This is the brain. This is the heart muscle that does not stop working for a minute while we are alive. And the last component of this product is lipoic or theoctic acid. This is a fatty acid that is normally found in every cell of our body. Its synthesis significantly decreases with age and in chronic diseases. With age, all substances, even getting with food in sufficient quantities, begin to be poorly absorbed. Therefore, older people are always a risk group for any deficiency conditions. Lipoic acid is not only a very powerful antioxidant, but it is also a universal detoxifier. What is the peculiarity? Lipoic acid works in both aqueous and fat-soluble environments. This is its versatility. Also, lipoic acid neutralizes absolutely all types of toxins, including toxins produced by fungi. Not all detoxifiers are capable of this. It can neutralize heavy metals. It affects cholesterol metabolism. It participates in energy metabolism. It increases the sensitivity of tissues to insulin in carbohydrate metabolism disorders. Improves liver function. Lipoic acid also has a very wide spectrum of action. To summarize, what do we have in formula for N.V.M.N? This is not just an antioxidant complex. All components act synergistically, reinforcing each other. They restore, promote the assimilation and creation of a depot. The product contains not only the most famous antioxidants and vitamins in effective dosages. It enhances cell protection and detox by including taurine and lipoic acid. Plus, the product intensively protects the organs with the most intensive energy metabolism. And we know that free radicals are most common there. Dosages are based on the recommended adequate intake level in the European Union. And you can see that the content of the main vitamins is very good. There is no data on taurine and lipoic acid in the regulations, but the dosages are effective. We remember that in complex products, it is important that each component enhances the effect of the others. Therefore, they may have even lower dosages, but we will get a much higher effect. We often talk about components, and we almost never talk about capsules. And this matters. Therefore, I would like to draw your attention to the advantage of gelatin capsules. They protect each component very well from destructive environmental factors. They protect against the ingress of oxygen from the action of any other additional components. Especially for fat-soluble components, this is a high degree of protection. It helps to maintain the effectiveness of each component throughout its shelf life. Gelatin capsules quickly dissolve in the acidic environment of the stomach. Accordingly, all components are released as quickly as possible during meals. This ensures optimal bioavailability of the component. So, we have analyzed each of the components in great detail. I dwelt in more detail on the nuances that I considered important for understanding the effect of the product. Hopefully, today's meeting will help you better understand the product so that you can use it effectively. Thank you for your attention. All the best to you. Be healthy.